Old Pie of Time is back. So I'm going to run through this deck real quick. This is still set 19 as it stands, so we haven't got our set 20 promos yet. Obviously not set 20, but it's meant to be in January. Anyway, running through the deck as it stands real quick. Set 19. Auto, when you swing, burst 3, draw a card. Helps you set up your overall. Awaken, when you're at 4 life or you have 8 cards in your war. Draw 2, flip over, and go down to 6. If you weren't there already. Wall of text. So, a lot of things this leader does. We'll go through them one at a time. Auto, whenever you play an overrealm, that's important, play an overrealm, you draw a card and put 3 cards from your warp back into your drop. Helps you set up for your second overrealm. Ooh, second overrealm. So, second activate main here, 1 black dot. So for 1 energy, ditch a card from your hand, play your Unison from your warp or your drop. It's fantastic. The whole deck sort of revolves around the Unison, so having access to it whenever, wherever is awesome. And then your last thing here, the activate main, was sort of the appeal to play the deck when it came out, but fell off pretty quickly. Critter life, so straight from your life into your drop, and put 3 cards, I believe it is, from your warp back into your drop. Helps you set up your next overrealm. And then for the rest of the turn, anything you play or have played via overrealm will stay when you pass. So overrealm doesn't become a temporary thing anymore. You can just keep them all. As I said, we're playing 2 overrealms a turn. It's going to be fantastic. We'll go through the core of the deck though, set that aside. We have, to start our deck, our 4 Unisons. Demigra. Get your SPRs while you can before they shoot up in price. This deck is pretty good. It goes pretty fast. A few things here. The main one to look out for is this auto at the top. So once per turn, burst 1, that is your cost. So place a card from the top of your deck into your drop. The moment you play your first overrealm, again, play, you can burst that card and you gain Wormhole for the rest of the turn. Wormhole just being the keyword that lets you do a second overrealm or dark overrealm. So we'll go through that play the overrealm thing. Both on this card and the leader, your effect is triggered by the play of an overrealm. If you activate overrealm but it doesn't hit the board, for example, it gets God Sealinged, your whole deck shuts down. You don't get the second overrealm because this never triggered. You don't get the draw. You don't get to put the 3 back, and obviously you can't play a second overrealm because you've already activated overrealm once per turn. Now that God Seal's gone, this is actually fantastic. There's only a really small number of cards that are going to hit your overrealms. Your small things can be hit by like Focus Breakthrough or Denial of Hope. Not much that's going to stop your big stuff coming into play anymore. So with God Seal gone, this deck's finally playable. It was honestly dead on release because the moment you came into blue, you couldn't play the game. Fantastic though, getting that one out of the way. You've got your 4 Unisons like we talked about. You've got your 4 Supreme Kai super combo. She's live as soon as you have 5 cards in the warp. She's a draw and gain 10k because you see she's a 0/0 here. If you want to play the deck optimally, probably go for the Go-10. He does the exact same thing, but he has 0/10. So even on turn 1, if they try and hit you with a double crit or something, you can out-combo it. Only reason I choose her, the event pack art is super nice, obviously, and its theme, Supreme Kai for Supreme Kai. Before we move on, I forgot the +1 and the -3. So +1, put 2 cards from your warp back into your drop, again helping you set up the overrealm, and the -3, grab 2 cards back with overrealm skill from your warp or drop. Just helps you set up again for your extra overrealms the rest of the turn. Moving on from that though, we have a defensive package. So starting off, 3 token negates. Don't need to explain those ones. Everyone knows what the token negates do. They are still fantastic, especially since you're awakening at 6. Go down safely to 4 with your tokens. Supreme Kai negate, awesome in the meta. Get rid of Z cards or tokens, they never come back. Obviously, just warp normal stuff is good as well. And your 3 Gohan rares. So, the main appeal to this is that it's not hit by counters because it's an auto skill, not a counter per se. If you're going against yellow or blue and they're going for the kill shot, you see they've got 3 open in yellow or 5 open in blue. You know that this one can't be stopped, so use this one instead. Warping cards via Activate Battle is great as well, and we are going to need the Z energy when we come into the new promo set. Your last 3 for this one, Quitsukai. So, obviously fantastic as a hindrance to your opponent playing on your turn. Also just good as a filter card. It works well in the deck. It's always going to be in the drop and warp thanks to a few cards. Honestly, in this deck, the only thing you're really paying for hard is your secret rare and your Unison. Everything else is almost no energy, 1 or free. So these are always live. You'll always have energy spare for them. When the Z cards come out, obviously you'll be paying 1 energy for that, so very expensive, of course, but you'll still have spare for this. Moving on, you've got your overall package, the stuff that makes the deck run. Have our Goku to start with. I believe this one came out last set as a winter promo. Reflexive Strike. He is a generic 3-cost Overwhelm. It's only a 5k, but that doesn't matter. He's more of a filter piece. When he hits the board, he's got an Activate main. You can send him from the board to your Warp, draw 2 cards, and then Warp a card in your hand. Awesome for setting up the Awaken with our leader, because she awakens at 8 in the Warp. The things that are locked specifically to a Supreme Kai of Time leader, though. You've got an Activate main down here. You can pitch him from hand, look at the top 5 and add a Goku or Vegeta Xeno. The appeal to that, obviously, if you're running the Goku Overwhelm, the big one, we'll talk about in a minute, or if you're running the Vegeta Super Combo, which is fantastic as well. Counter is the big thing for this deck. You are pushing a lot of damage through for free with those 30k Overwhelms. So being able to counter on a pivotal moment of the game and add a Chumper, for example, probably going to secure you the game. It's nice that they locked it to Supreme Kai. As much as I would love a generic 3-cost counter in black, because yellow has one, it gives you a reason to actually play the deck, which is what I think they should go into the future thinking. There's so many rogue decks out there that would be fantastic if their archetype cards were actually locked to the archetype. Moving on though, we've got a few more small Overwhelm cards. Trunks Time Regulator, same sort of thing. It's helping you set up that warp because you're drawing 2 and warping 1. It is a private draw like Goku as well, which is fantastic, meaning you draw 2 cards, you're not revealing them, and then you're warping something random from your hand. In contrast to that, you have your Kai, which is looking at the top 3 for a battle card specifically. Because it specifies you have to grab a battle card, you have to show your opponent, and if it's a secret rare, they can start planning their gameplay around that. Another themed choice, I'm only running this one because I like the theme and it works with Supreme Kai. If you want to play optimally, I'd probably swap this for the critical Vegeta that bursts 3. That's going to help you set up your Overwhelm 8 to Awaken. Getting through those ones, we have our big Overwhelms now. Your big boys, the beaters, Goku Overwhelm, and Vegeta Overwhelm. Both of these, Overwhelm 6, the Goku obviously grabbing pieces back, which is fantastic for recursion, and the Vegeta making your opponent warp 1 from hand as mini hand destruction there. They're obviously thwarting targets as well. However, these are the ones at the present time that are worth critting the life for on your leader. You would not be critting a life to keep a Supreme Kai or a Trunks, for example. So keep that in mind. As soon as the promos come out, go your hardest. Do it every turn. Why not? Moving on from those though, we have some more aggressive pieces that are more tech, so they're only at 3 ofs. We have our Trunks, God Trunks. So playing from the warp for 2, deflect, awesome. Every time he swings, twice a turn obviously because it's dual attack. Putting 3 cards from your warp back in your drop, setting up your Overwhelm. The nice thing about this one and your Dark Broly is that they can be played from the warp. So early on, if you grab that Goku Overwhelm or the Trunks Overwhelm and you need to warp a card in hand, these are the best targets. It just feels like almost a draw 3 at that point because you're putting back the card that you can use later. To go along with that though, we have our Masked Saiyan as well. Fantastic anniversary box card. If you send a card from your drop to your warp, which we are doing literally every turn, he becomes a 1 cost with deflect, critical, and he blows 2 things up on play. They do come back at the end of your opponent's next turn with their Z cards or tokens or secret rares. Obviously they stay dead. Moving on to our finishes. We have Mira, and of course Champa 2 and 2, just so that you see them. This, along with our Goku counter, is probably going to win you a lot of your games. I imagine that's how they designed the deck to be. Before Godseal was banned, I had this at a 3 of, simply because of the deflect. It didn't shut your whole leader down when they Godsealed you. But again, most of your games, probably at the moment, Mira, Champa, Goku, counter. That's 5 energy to win the game. Also, your other one-ofs, you've got a Thwarting and a Cumber. So, Thwarting, I'm probably looking at cutting it into the future when we do get those promos because I want to fit a few more things in. Cumber, another one of those warp value cards. Early on, send him to the warp with your Overwhelms because he can be played from there. 2 energy if your opponent's at 3 or more energy, comes down, crits one of their life 7 or less to the warp, and then you grab something from their warp 7 or less or play it. He also steals the first card they play 7 or less, good value. This whole deck is about playing big beaters for free. We're currently at 55 cards. The only things that are going to change when the promos come out, obviously you're running your 4 Z-Pan in the Z deck, along with maybe 2 of the Agent of Destruction Boo and 1 of the Self-Awakening Vegeta. There's your 7. You will also probably swap out your 4 Vegeta Overwhelms, and thwarting in that case, for the new Fighting Against Fate Light, the Trunks. He helps you charge the energy. That'll take you to 54 cards, and then if you want to add your 4 Gotens, I believe it is, he's the new Double Strike 25k, that'll take you to 58 cards. Still leaves you with room for personal choice cards, or if you just want to stay at the lower deck count. Awesome deck to try out though. A few more things to think about or consider with your own preferences. The Goten here, he's an overwhelm for 2, 10k, not that great. Activate main though, this is the thing we're looking at. Pitch him from your hand, similar to the Goku. You can look at the top 7 and either grab your Unison or a 2-cost overwhelm. So he grabs himself, or boom, boom, these 2 awakening pieces as well. Both of these are very similar, but inverse. One's crit, one's double. On play, they just draw a card and send cards to your warp, so they help you awaken. These are your consistency pieces though. If you do find you're either not opening your Unison often enough, add these. Or if you find you're struggling to awaken on that turn 2, add these. A few more strong cards to consider. Obviously, we talked about the Vegeta before. Replace it for your Supreme Kai of Time Overwhelm if you want that extra consistency. I just like the theme. And the whole reason probably a lot of people looked into the deck, Fu the Dark Banisher. One of the best overwhelms ever printed. Obviously came short once God Sealing came in. It was just too free to remove it. Overwhelm 8 for 4 energy, which is costly, but like I said, nothing else in the deck is being paid for, so you may as well tap 4 for this. He's got a permanent at the bottom. Anytime your opponent activates a skill, an additional cost is added to it that they have to pitch a card from their hand to the warp. So if they can't pitch a card, they can't activate the skill. That's any skill. They want a super combo, they warp 1. They want a counter, they warp 1. They want to draw off their leader swing next turn, they warp 1. Obviously with our leader, if you're critting a life, you can keep him in play, even if you don't swing with him, even if you sit him there. If they want to play Cell from their Z energy, for example, they still have to warp a card to get rid of him. If they want to activate Beerus extra card, they have to warp a card to get rid of him. He's just so much free value in the deck. It will be bumped up to a higher tier once those promos come out. However, now it's still completely playable. We've got a few games on the channel you've probably seen already. Coming into the future as well, we will get a Meki Kabura deck profile out as well. Just the opposite of Kai, that one, more of a control mid-range route. Hope you've enjoyed this one. It gives you something to think about as the new set drops though.